Good day and welcome to the Colgate Palmolive India Limited Investor Conference Call. We have with us today Mr. Ram Raghavan, Managing Director of Colgate Palmolive India Limited, Mr. M.S. Jacob, Chief Financial Officer, and Sujata Neri, Head Commercial and Investor Relations. Today's session will start with a brief presentation by Mr. Ram and Mr. Jacob, sharing their views on the overall company strategy and initiatives. This will be followed by a Q&A session. As a reminder, all participant lines only, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Please note that this conference is being recorded. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thanks, Sanford. Hey, good morning, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to every one of you. I certainly hope today finds each and every one of you and your respected and your loved and near and dear ones all safe and healthy. 2020 has certainly been an interesting year for all of us. And I'm sure many of you must be wondering why we're here today. If you recall back in November last year, actually, we spoke to you guys about a very structured approach to fundamentally accelerating growth and looking at it not just from a quarter-on-quarter basis, but strategically over the short, the medium, and the long term. Today is really about a few things. Number one, to bring you how we're tracking against those critical milestones or the critical areas of growth we spoke to you about. Second, also to give you a little bit of a glimpse into the future and where our thinking's at and how we believe we want to continue to lead the narrative when it comes to oral health in this country. We've got with us a very structured approach today. Jacob and I will take you through some of the thoughts we have in terms of our accelerating growth strategy, and then with our financial discipline, and subsequently open ourselves up for a bit of a Q&A. Let me start by showcasing our strategic framework to driving profitable growth. As I mentioned to you earlier, we have an unbelievably and unwavering, relentless focus on our consumer. Everything starts and ends with her. Okay. Beyond that, we pride ourselves in the impact which we execute. In other words, we make sure we get done what we committed to getting done. All of this is done with unbelievable sets of financial discipline. And last, but certainly not the least, everything we undertake is done giving back to society and the communities we participate in. What I'm going to cover off today is our strategic framework and how we bring it to life across the multiple initiatives we've undertaken and look to undertake in the future. Sorry. Let me kick it off with winning with brands. Now, you would wonder why I would talk to you about brands. And I think almost every one of you would unequivocally agree with me that during the pandemic, if anything has come to light, is the strength of brands. Consumers have gone back to things they trust. While products sell, ultimately it's brands that win the hearts and minds of our consumers. People consume products, but they buy into brands. And one of the critical hallmarks of our long-term success and continued long-term success is our ability to strengthen our brands and take them to even greater heights, thereby assuring that level of loyalty we've always had to continue over significantly longer periods of time. A few times, you've now seen our overall championing optimism cause, or our brand purpose of everybody, or believing everybody deserves a future that they can smile about, being brought to life with our campaign called Smile Karo or Shuru Ho Jao. Year in, year out, quarter in, quarter out, we've been strategic in terms of how we've been approaching this. Even with our most recent, my slides are stuck here. Even with our most recent narratives, all seen the remarriage execution that's been on air across almost every digital platform in the country. We've also just launched our another critical campaign in the same genre of solutions. This one on another topic that's been bubbling under the surface that we've looked to curate and bring to life across our country. Let me share with you the TVC. Can't seem to play it yet. Something seriously wrong. Sorry about that, guys. We're having some tech issues this morning.
मेरा लॉकडाउन वैसे ही गुजरा जैसे पिछले कई साल। वही लाइफ वही काम।
Sorry about that, everyone. We're having some tech troubles this morning. Let me just work with the backend team to solve this. Give me a moment, please.
मेरा लॉकडाउन वैसे ही गुजरा मेरा लॉकडाउन वैसे ही गुजरा मेरा लॉकडाउन जैसे पिछले कई साल। वही लाइफ वही काम। मेरा लॉकडाउन वैसे ही गुजरा जैसे पिछले कई साल। वही लाइफ वही काम। घर परिवार संभालना मेरी मर्जी थी, पर अपना कुछ करना मेरा सपना रहा। तो बस सोच लिया कि अब बहाने नहीं, इरादे बनाते हैं।
एक नई आजादी का जश्न मनाओ, स्माइल करो और शुरू हो जाओ। कोलगेट।
Sorry again, guys. There's some trouble on the tech side here. Yeah, okay, there we go. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Enjoyed that. More importantly, hopefully you've seen it on multiple platforms across the country. Control, guys. Just sorry, guys. I don't seem to have control on the presentation. So give me a second while we resolve the tech issues.
Your passcode has been confirmed. Please state your name and company after the tone, followed by the hash key. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for patiently waiting. We have Mr. Ram Raghavan online, so you may go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that again. It's a good thing that, we chat optimism and able to overcome that with a smile. So let me step back again and, just recap a couple of points and we'll get ourselves going again. As I spoke to you about, the first thing that we've continued to do is make sure that we build brands. And why brands again? And brands simply make sure that ultimately consumers trust something that they know and are familiar with. And it's with that context that we continue to make sure that our brands remain top of mind, but more importantly, very close to our consumer hearts at every single point in their lives. Specifically, when there are moments of anxiousness, when there are moments of uncertainty, that's when trusted brands automatically become that much more relevant and important in consumer lives. If you recall, we kicked off our our brand purpose of everybody deserving a future they can smile about into an Indianized context of smile karo or shuru ho jao. There were a series of films that we brought to life where we picked on specific subjects that were bubbling under the surface or in conversations that were existing across society. And we looked to use this platform as a megaphone, so to speak, to help bring our philosophy to life. You've seen multiple executions on these, whether it's been about remarriage or more recently, whether it's about the entrepreneurial nature of women and making the best of these trying circumstances. What we've also been able to do is look around the entire country and identified some unbelievably inspiring stories. We've again used this platform to make it a megaphone that allows these stories to be brought to life. Whether it's been India's first blind paraglider with Devyanshu, or more recently, Deepika Matre, who from very humble beginnings of being a house help has now become one of the country's leading stand-up comedians. Talk about an optimistic journey, talk about championing optimism. Hats off to Deepika and of course all of them that we just have this wonderful opportunity to connect with. It doesn't stop there. What we've also been able to do is we've tied up with the India Today Group as a strategic partnership. And specifically over the last 9 months or so, we've taken even bigger stories, whether they are at a local level or at a national level, and brought these to life. Some examples of these are whether it's been Dr. Iyengar in the South, whether it's been Ms. Upadhyay, or more recently, even Ms. Niveda. Each one of them have had personal stories that they've, in their own little way, championed optimism and made sure that the smile has been an integral part of how they've overcome various challenges, not whether it's personal or whether that a community is facing. Another critical aspect is when we were thinking about how can the brand help continue to resonate at even greater levels was when we strategically chose to partner not just one team, but 6 teams as the official Smile partners for the IPL. Hopefully, you would have seen our presence across all the games. About an opportunity where we were able to reflect the optimism reflected by an entire nation and coming back with a sporting event that is so close to our hearts, cricket. This was again for us an absolute no-brainer in which we were able to make sure that the brand continued to remain and resonate extremely high in the minds and hearts of our consumers. While all of this is brilliant in terms of things that we do, the ultimate deciding fate lies in our fate lies in the hands of our consumers. And when I look at the results coming out of all of these, we're really pleased to see some of the activities or all these activities translate themselves into how we win the minds of our consumers. If you look at top of mind recall, amongst the most stringent of measures when it comes to how a brand is recalled by our consumers, whether it's about with attitudinal equity, and then ultimately whether the heart and the mind translates itself into presence at home. A sincere thanks to every one of our consumers across the country. We're now India's #1 penetrated brand at a staggering 88% of households. And we're the #1 brand. Sincere thanks to every one of our loyal consumers. Your loyalty, your trust, your faith in our brand continues to make us serve you that much harder and better. The second big bucket that I spoke to you guys about was leading innovation. Again, we spoke about a strategic approach to it. We spoke about a measured and a sustainable model. So it wasn't just about firing many bullets and hoping a few will stick. It was about making sure we start and end with the consumer and strategically look to build solutions that talk about broadening platforms. So moving from a category approach to a platform model of innovation. The second, coming in with products that ultimately deliver on the key benefits with technological superiority. And third, as the leader in our categories, we always want to look to growing the pie and leading the narrative in the conversation. So I'm also going to share with you some exciting stuff we've got coming up in the next 4 to 6 weeks that's going to be hitting the market soon, and how we are creating new categories and segments altogether. The first one that I know all of you always ask me about is Ved Shakti. So before I jump into what's next on Ved Shakti, I just wanted to take stock on how it's doing. Across the board, if you recall, when we spoke last, I spoke about a unique platform and a context of what Colgate's oral care expertise, double down with the Ayurvedic science and the magic that the two can do together, and a very distinctive proposition of a pure mouth equaling a healthy you. That was the platform we undertook. While it started with toothpaste, and you've seen the results already, we already got 2x in terms of the distribution reach. We've gained 70 bips of household penetration with high levels of stickiness amongst our consumers. And even when you look at our market shares, both in modern trade and in e-com, we're seeing significant increase on that front as well. Beyond that, I'm very, very happy to say that we're not stopping here, right? You're all familiar with this pack. We spoke to you about this as we launched a few years ago. We continue to invest and grow it strategically. But now what we're looking to do with it is also genuinely look at it from a very unique and ownable proposition. You could call it the contemporization and making sure that we leverage the best of Ayurveda and the best of the oral care expertise that Colgate brings to the table. And the combination of the two continues to deliver an unbelievably clean mouth that delivers a healthy and a better you. More importantly, it starts going beyond toothpaste. I know there was a lot of excitement, and I certainly wish this could have been done live when we launched the phenomenal first of its kind mouth spray in the entire country. Early results look extremely positive, and we are very, very pleased with how it's doing. Today, I'm even more excited on how we're broadening this platform, again, with another thought-leading solution in the category. Before I do that, I want to make sure that we brought how the spray was very intelligently brought to life. And again, playing to very significant cultural. So beyond the IPL sponsorships and making sure that those moments where the mouth is wide open, that we participate and give you that protection that you need. More importantly, if you think about it, right from childhood, the first time where any one of us, whether you went for a dental checkup or whether you went for a regular doctor checkup, and sometimes even at home, the first thing, guess what everyone asks you to do in India? Aa karo. And for us, this was the perfect place to say aa karo or germs ko na karo. So the brilliance with which the cultural fit was brought to life has only strengthened the proposition that much more. And like I mentioned, I'm extremely pleased to announce again for the first time, and it seems to be getting to be a habit here to be announcing things at this forum more than anywhere else now, is we will be broadening the Ved Shakti platform with the launch of a first of its kind, Ved Shakti oil pulling. Again, an age-old practice that's been amplified by the who's who of our nation. we have been able to channel that practice, amplify it with our oral care expertise by bringing together a brilliant solution of sesame oil blended with eucalyptus, basil, and clove for wonderful flavor. So it's not just about the removal of impurity with because it's packed with antioxidants, but it gives you a very, very different flavor profile. This is yet another model through which we're broadening the Ved Shakti platform to truly own the space of a pure and a clean mouth equaling a healthier you. In another 4 weeks or so, you will see this in the market, and this is what the future Ved Shakti lineup will start looking like. Exciting times certainly ahead of us. Once again, delivering to what the consumer wants, and in some cases, creating solutions, because we know these are the potential unmet needs that only a brand like ours in driving a narrative that again is about growing the pie more than anything else. While we've been doing all this, we haven't forgotten the core of our business, right? And if you recall, we spoke to you about the models where we're looking to make sure we're renovating as well as getting into the new territories. This was something we had done a year or so ago, and where we had relaunched our flagship brand Strong Teeth with the best technology available today against cavity protection or delivering that strength of teeth. I'm pleased to say, given all the efforts that we've put in as an organization, and once again, thanks to our consumers, we've seen unbelievably powerful results coming out of this. With 130 bp increase in household penetration, even during tough times such as COVID, we saw continued growth at 115 index on this brand, and finally translating itself into even market share results, which continue to strengthen as we go along the year. What's even more exciting is the digital elements to how we are continuing to engage our consumers. I've already spoken to you about the fact that Colgate is by far the most penetrated brand in our country. And we felt this was a phenomenal asset, and an asset that we felt could amplify our engagement and an almost constantly always on engagement model with our consumers. Very soon, you'll start seeing QR codes on almost all our packs and tubes. What this allows is for a simple and everyday engagement. Scanning the QR code will tell you a lot more about the product, will give you a lot more insights about how to look after your oral health and various other solutions. So yet another way in which we're pioneering the offline-online integration. You'll see much more to come on this subject over the course of 2021. Having said that, we continue on to toothbrushes. We've launched an entire lineup called Gentle. We've launched an entire lineup of Gentle, ranging from 30 rupees all the way up to 130 rupees. Again, bringing technology across every price point, such that consumers, irrespective of their abilities, can participate in the best solutions possible when it comes to gentle yet unbelievably thorough cleaning of their mouths. Once again, making sure that we keep the core in mind. Zigzag, amongst the most recognized brushes in the country today, was relaunched with the antibacterial bristles. And yet again, we played to a very cultural analogy of the taxi, saying that, is your toothbrush a taxi? And what do we mean by that? Is it constantly picking up germs? Given the conditions in where more often than not, the brushes are actually kept, the antibacterial bristle on such a large brand, yet again, was a first in the market. We haven't stopped there. Across the core of our business, which is Super Flexi, by far the single brush and the biggest brush in the market today, we had already launched a charcoal. I'm extremely pleased to also announce the launch of Super Flexi Salt. This again goes back to our idea of building larger platforms. Colgate Active Salt is the only player in that particular segment. This allows that franchise to get even more strength as we go beyond toothpaste. We're not stopping there with this idea of blending science plus naturals. We're taking zigzag from neem and charcoal and amplifying it now with the launch of zigzag turmeric as well. All of these value additions act as marginally increased price points that allow consumers the affordability with which they can participate in these exciting segments. The third big pillar we spoke to you about remains India's #1 searched oral care concern. Despite the pandemic and despite everything else going on, the search levels did not slow down, and it still remained the #1 need of the consumer every time we were having conversations with them. I'm more than excited to talk to you about our new portfolio of Visible White. We've now got two variants, one which is called the Core Sparkling White, and the second, a very, very recent launch, Visible White Instant. Let me talk to you a little bit about Visible Instant, yet again bringing new technologies into the country, making sure that our consumers get the best of oral health possible. Instant has optic brighteners that exfoliate, stain, and polishes the teeth surface. It's got advanced particles that remove stains. And the most important part, all this that gets into effect from the first brushing itself. All of this is great, but if you're unable to connect with our consumers effectively in a language, in a manner, with the right level, the right kinds of influencers, we're not going to be able to get this right. On that front as well, we're making sure that we've got young millennials carry forward the story of making sure that you have a dazzling white set of teeth every time you step, time you need it. As you can imagine, the campaign comes to life, actually just went live a couple of days ago, featuring Kiara Advani in this case, is largely digitally driven, given the audience that they're going to go after. Hopefully, you would have an opportunity to not just see it, but more importantly, try the product as well, and you can come back and tell us how dazzling, right, and bright your teeth are. Let me give you a glimpse into the future, and yet again, showcase something where we talk about leading the category growth overall. I'm sure we probably know this fact in India. There are 73 million identified diabetics. 1 in 6 adults with diabetes globally, unfortunately, belong to our country. Now, you would be wondering, what has this got to do with oral health? So the fact that you probably did not know was that as a diabetic patient or as a diabetic, you have 3 times more risk of gum diseases. And we all know where gum diseases eventually lead up to. So presenting to you, again, a first of its kind, the world's first toothpaste for diabetics. The Colgate toothpaste for diabetics. Yet again, in our philosophy of reimagining a healthier future for every one of our consumers, this has amplified, again, opportunities that no one ever tapped into, solving genuine consumer problems through expertise and technologically superior products. So when it comes to the product itself, we have proven technology that makes sure you get at least a 50% reduction in gum bleeding, 22% reduction in plaque, and again, a proprietary technology that allows us to build sustainable models, not just for today, but heading into the long term. What I'm particularly excited about in this launch is a completely different go-to-market model that we're looking to build. The approach we're taking is that of personalization at scale. It's entirely a data-driven model, right from understanding the consumer journey to the engagement process and looking at it as a complete ecosystem. Whether it's about identifying the diabetic, making sure that we're understanding their journey and then offering the right set of solutions that help continue to improve their lives. Whether it's unique things that in the product itself, if you actually open it, there is a leaflet that allows for the education and understanding of what is different or how is connected with overall the diabetic condition. Similarly, as I mentioned, you'll start seeing QR codes on our pack. This again allows consumers the opportunity to just scan the QR code and understand much more. So whether you're digitally savvy or you like analog solutions, we still have both way options available for you to continue to be educated on how you can lead a healthier life. As I mentioned, even the entire go-to-market process on this is radically different. We see this as a solution that betters people's lives. We want people to have healthier futures. And in the context of that, we've tied up with not just the Indian Periodontal Association, but with also the Indian Diabetic Association. Along with that, we're very sharp and targeted in our approach through strategic partnerships online and offline medical and pharma stores, making sure that we are able to target this consumer intelligently and manage their lives or help them manage this condition. Like I said, our simple desire is that they have as fulfilling a life as anybody else. The third critical part of our strategic framework is our go-to-market. It's always been one of our hallmarks, our strengths, and it's something we continue to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve. If you recall, I spoke to you about e-com. And in e-com, we spoke to you about the fact that we had invested in putting a structure together from a 3-member team, and this was done in record time, way about 12 to 13 months ago. Beyond putting a team in place and making sure we had the investment model, we took a strategic outlook to what it takes to win in this environment. Whether it's about the principles of driving traffic or building traffic to drive conversion or increasing we're available in, whether it's strategic partnerships with all the leading platforms in the country, or it's an amplification of our entire digitization and analytics journey. And last but certainly not the least is about making sure product availability, or what we often define as brilliant basics. These are the 4 foundational stones or the 4 critical pillars of our success when it comes to e-com. The results speak for themselves. So not only in terms of the internal growth, but more importantly, when you see our e-com toothpaste market shares, we've had a significant uplift in terms of from where we are to where we are today. Again, hats off to the entire, not just our team, but more importantly to our partners as well, who've been critical in helping us drive this narrative of leading oral health in the country. It just doesn't stop. And we made sure that the core of our business, whether it's an emerging modern trade environment, continues to grow. We saw outstanding presence and in fact almost strengthened our presence even during the COVID periods, making sure our consumers always had a product available at arm's length at any point in time that they wanted. Yet again, shares not only grew, but have now started indexing higher than our all India shares again, showcasing the fact that we're driving the right assortments and the right bundles in each of these retail environments. The often ignored part of our business is the indirect trade, and still a critical part of the business, and specifically the entire middleman or the wholesale plan. We did not lose sight of this. In fact, strengthened it. We brought to life a program called Muskan, which was once again on how we brought our brand purpose to life, this time with our trade partners. This strategic capability became a strength that served us even more during the last 6 to 9 months, where we've seen some unbelievable growth and presence with our wholesale partners who continued to fight hard irrespective of the challenges around them, and in fact saw a large level of resurgence over the course of the pandemic. The 4th pillar of our growth is caring for our communities. Like I said, it's all about, we want to make sure that we give back, and it's about reimagining healthy futures. I'm pleased to announce the philosophy under which this healthy future, or what we call the SMILE, if you can read the acronym that it's built out. How do we drive social impact? How do we help millions of people in our country? And how do we make sure we preserve the environment? The Keep India Smiling Foundation is something that's a critical foundation stone of what we continue to do. We've had over almost 80,000 applications, and we continue, and scholarships offered till date. Beyond that, in terms of making sure that we continue to help the millions of consumers we serve across the country, whether it was our initiatives on the COVID front, or more importantly, other mechanisms of amplified or leveraging digital capabilities to give amplified scale and reach to our consumers. This was brought to life with the Dentist for Me campaign, where we've now clocked in more than 86,000 plus and counting phone calls and patients. Whether it's our flagship program, Bright Smile, Bright Futures, and the digitization of the same. And what was really interesting is as we digitized our entire EBSBF program, it was very interesting to see that parents actually started participating. So in a strange way, while we were improving we were looking to develop good oral health behaviors early in a person's life. Interestingly enough, parents also started participating, and we're seeing a lot more on that front as well, which again is only going to be beneficial to every single consumer we have out there. From a point of view of the environment, we now have solar and wind installations across every one of our facilities. Our LEED certification has been amongst the first few in the country, and we remain very, very proud of that. And we continue to reduce water across every one of our plants at stellar pace. With that, I'll hand over to Jacob, who can then walk us through the financial metrics.
Hello, good morning, folks. Hello, is the audio clear? Yeah,
yes, we can hear you.
So I'm going to just use the audio to communicate. So the financial strategy we remains unchanged. It's been a bedrock on which we've developed all our plans. It stood us in good stead in good times and not so good times either. So sales volume driving it up, margins up, costs down, advertising investment up, and operating profit up. So this remains unchanged. Next slide. So you're familiar with the second quarter results. We reported a fairly good set of numbers. Our domestic sales was up 7.1%, about 1278 crores. Gross margin, very good improvement there, 67.9. Advertising, we've been calibrating as the recovery happened over the quarters. So we got it to 12.9%. EBITDA also sharply up to 32%, and our after-tax profit was up double digit at 274 crores. Next slide. A few charts here on the financial metrics. So gross margin has been as we combine pricing, judicious promotions, better mix, and razor-sharp control on costs, and we continue to see good trends on that at 67.9 in the last quarter. Advertising, as I mentioned, it's a very critical piece of building our business, and so we have been investing back. And as the business come back, you've seen it get back to normal levels, and you will continue to see this in EBITDA percentage been the best ever, and we think we are at very good levels currently. Next. Another very key area which has received razor-sharp focus has been the cash management, the working capital piece, the capital investment piece, etc. So you can see our cash is at record levels, and we continue to be very vigilant in this area. We know this will be an interesting time, and this is an area which is receiving a lot of attention. So that's all I had on the financial section.
Excellent. Thank you, Jacob. Once again, this was our prepared set of remarks. Like I said, I think it's becoming a practice that we seem to be launching a lot of exciting things with this group. Hopefully you don't keep expecting it from us. It just so happens the last two times there's been, coincidentally, we've had the opportunity to showcase some genuinely category leading and category defining innovation, and we continue down that path. So hopefully you're all as excited as we are about a wonderful future ahead, and a future that most certainly all of us look forward to keep smiling about. So with that, I'll open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much, sir. We will now begin the question and answer session. To ask a question, please click on the Q&A icon and click on the Submit Request button. When it is your turn to ask a question, an operator will announce your name and request you to unmute your mic so that you can interact with the speakers. Please accept the prompt on your screen and proceed with your question. Should you choose to use the video option, you will be required to publish your webcam. If you wish to ask a question on chat, you can type your questions in the text box and disable the Request to Talk slider. Then click the Submit Request button, and your question will be picked up during the Q&A session by the operator or the presenter. Participants who have dialed in via telephone may enter star and 1 on their keypad to ask the questions. We will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We take the first question from the line of Manoj Menon. Please go ahead. Mr. Menon, may we request you to accept the prompt on your screen to proceed for your question? Mr. Menon, your line is unmuted. You may go ahead now.
Yeah. I'm audible because I'm actually speaking from the audio from the phone.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. What I was just saying was Ram and Jacob and team, brilliantly made presentation. It was extremely pleasing to see, some of the new product launches, which otherwise was looking quite logical. You should have done probably why now it could have been earlier. That's been the thoughts actually. So brilliant to see that. Just a couple of questions from my side. One, your thoughts on naturals as a segment. Where are we in the journey? Because it's been one of those upcoming few years back and probably kind of still that. So just want to hear your thoughts on naturals. Understand your play within that. Now that there are a lot of priorities to focus on, whether it's diabetic or whether it's oil pulling or whether it is kids. I just saw a relaunch recently. Or even naturals. So just two questions there on naturals. One, your perspective on what percentage in this natural trajectory and your thoughts on that versus the other priorities you have on other segments.
Listen, exciting times indeed. And like you rightly called out, I think some seemingly logical and some, I think we would like to call it category defining solutions. So I think first, let me take the naturals questions. I think when you step back, we look at naturals way bigger than perhaps that's often defined by a lot of people, right? So we look at naturals from the prospect of three fundamental areas. One is what you would call a philosophy or a philosophical approach to naturals, whether it's typically Ayurveda, at least in India, it's looked at from point of view of Ayurveda, right? And it's the outlook there for us. Our lead is the Vedic Shakti franchise, which looks to make sure that we take the best of Ayurveda, amplify it or couple it with the best of oral care science and ask that solution. So first pillar is there. The second pillar of naturals is what we often define as an ingredient-based model. And what do I mean by ingredient-based model is these are familiar or sometimes unfamiliar ingredients that have known properties to perform good stuff or give genuine benefits to you, whether it's a Colgate salt that actually we pioneered back in the mid-2000s, or whether it's a very unique and millennial-esque solution like a Colgate charcoal today, right? So I think the second pillar for us is what we call ingredient-based solutions, and you see the same thing then playing itself out across categories as well. So you see that I showcase some of the toothbrushes as well, in which we can bring those ingredient solutions to life. The third area, which you'll hear us talk about more as time goes by, is what we call the sustainability area. And to many people, Manoj. So the way we see it is it could have two facets to it, which is fundamentally it could be about a philosophy where it is about minimal stuff that is required to deliver the benefits consumers look for, right? So it doesn't have a certain set of things or reduced levels of certain things while still performing the ultimate benefit. So you'll see more from us in that area, what we call the sustainable area of choice. So first of all, we're seeing naturals on that. And I think when we look at naturals from that much broader narrative, it allows you genuinely as a brand to be able to drive net incrementality, number one. Second, it allows you to get a far broader reach with different target audiences because different people want to buy into different things. Third, it offers you unbelievable flex in terms of pricing capability. For absolutely pure products, free from just about anything and everything, will be also willing to pay a little bit more for that. So what this outlook allows us to do, it gives us that breadth in terms of pricing participation as well. The second question on priorities, I think again, the answers. Do we feel like we've got too many? I don't think so. Short answer is that, and let me tell you why. Number one, again, the platform model helps in driving a halo effect, right? So when we talk about Ved Shakti and anchoring Ved Shakti, not just with the toothpaste today, but anchoring Ved Shakti with mouth protect spray and with oil pulling, you're fundamentally solving for a much bigger problem. And I think that platform model offers tremendous levels of halo. So even if advertising Ved Shakti mouth spray, there is a on the toothpaste as well. And similarly, when you advertise the toothpaste, you get the benefit across the other parts of the business in terms of that platform. That's one. Second, when you start looking at things like whether it's diabetes, kids, even Ved Shakti or any of the other businesses and brands we drive, the radical shift in retail environments in India and the digitization of the country itself actually offers you multiple channels and solutions on how you can effectively reach the consumer. So in the past, you had a choice and you had to be on television and blast away. Today, you can be as individualistic as you want to be to as mass as you want to be. So I think our sharpness has been in about how we balance the priority in terms of a very defined target audience and how we go about reaching that.
Okay, understood. Ram, thanks. I have only one question and then I'll come back in the queue. That's the second one. So it's just wanted your thoughts, perspectives, with the real medium term, 3-5 years or even beyond, on Colgate India's thought process on, the outside of oral care. I know that this question probably would have been asked many times in the past as well. But the context is that, you got a certain size, with a lot of scale in one large category. Maybe the recall value, as you rightly mentioned, it's unparalleled. And when I look back the history, it was a conscious choice made by, the company at that point in time, probably 20 years back, when you had a halo. Palmolive is still around, Axion. So I still remember a lot of those brands. The simple question, is there a roadmap for, outside oral care diversification, with the medium-term thought process? If yes, if you could just talk about some milestones, thought process, it will be very helpful.
Sure. I spoke about it last time also when we chatted, Manoj, and I said that absolutely. So are we committed to making sure we can build a multi-brand business in India? Yes, the commitment remains. And Palmolive, by all means, has even if you remember last, I spoke about having a wonderfully strong residual memory structure still with a lot of consumers across the country. So we're very so enter Palmolive in the right categories, with the right product solutions that deliver and service the needs of the consumer. So I think absolutely we're looking at it. We're just going to be doing it, like I said, choicefully and intelligently, because we want to look at it from a longer term point of view. It's not about a flash in a quarter here or there, but it's more a medium to long term view to make sure that we can leverage, as you rightfully said, the broader go-to-market strengths that we have, and the overall reach we have as an organization. How does one that leverage to build
Excuse me, this is the operator. Mr. Raghavan, we can't hear you that well. Your voice is breaking.
Oh, okay. So let me try again. So I said what I was telling Manoj is absolutely Palmolive has a strong residual equity in the country, and what we're going through is the exercise of being choiceful in terms of which categories would we like to enter or create. How would we do it? Making sure that the brand has a distinctive proposition and something genuine to build in terms of the hearts and minds of our consumers, and then of course making sure that we have the product portfolio that helps ultimately deliver those unbelievable experiences that they're looking for. So yes, it is very much on our agenda as we look into the medium and long-term outlook for the country.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Good to be back in the queue.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj.
The next question is from the line of Harit Kapoor. Please go ahead. Mr. Harit Kapoor, may I request you to accept the prompt on your screen to proceed for your question?
Hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. I had two questions. So my first question was on the new launches in the toothpaste portfolio. If I look at the launches, whether it's the the Visit White variant, whether it's Colgate Diabetes, or even the pudding oil, it seems like they're more on the look at the last few years, we have had challenges in some parts of the mid-premium and the premium end of the portfolio. So I just wanted to know, given that these new launches that are happening slightly more at the premium end, is there a thought process that you're seeing in the market that the consumer is once again ready for a premiumization journey in oral care? Is it where it's coming from, or is it just certain gaps that you're willing to fill?
So let me start. First of all, sorry, thanks for the question. I think I'd step back, and the way I'd answer the question, I think it's about how we've looked at pacing our innovation correctly over the years. And like I said, it's about striking the balance on three things. Number one, the balance between the core of our business, so renovation, so to speak, and then of course new segments and new opportunities. Is making sure that it's a balancing act between the core on new initiatives on the core itself across the categories that we operate in and the new. And the third is where we believe we can lead the narrative, right? And honestly, the consumer also looks to us in most of these circumstances to be driving that conversation. So let me step back now and give examples under each. In 2019 Q3, we relaunched CDC, our flagship, with the world's greatest technology. It was launched in India first. The world's greatest technology when it comes to anti-cavity, and we did it on the biggest part of our business first. Similarly, when we went with Weight Shakti, we knew we were slightly late in the game, so we knew we had a catch up to play. Having said that, we've accelerated what it is that unique would bring to what's Colgate's to amplify the platform, and we move from a catch up to a lead to broaden the platform more than anything else. So the way consumers can participate in this vary at dramatically significant levels. So even if I extend that argument to toothbrushes, I showcased to you innovation all the way from 25 rupees all the way up to 130 rupees. And then the third component is premiumization. And premiumization, as you rightly said, you're seeing a lot of those initiatives, whether it's whitening, diabetes, they are certainly in the premium space. So I think our approach is about striking the right balance between the two. And it's not about an either or strategy. We're very, very clear that our product portfolios must cater right down to from whether it's rural India to the most economically strongest folks in the country as well. We want to make sure we offer a portfolio at all and every price point. across, as well as in terms of benefit segmentation. So I think if I were to draw a 4-quarter or a 6-quarter outlook, you would see that our thought process on innovation is very balanced across this.
That's very clear, Ram. Thank you so much for this. Just one last question was on, you speak about, profitable growth and, from a, operating margin perspective over the last few years, Colgate has done extremely well. You've been able to drive profitability. I just wanted to understand from the next 3 to 5 year perspective also, do you believe at even from these levels of operating margins, if you want to, drive growth in line or ahead of the market, is there scope to, improve profitability here? And if yes, is it from mix or is it from just very strong cost control?
I'll let Jacob kick us off
hi.
with the response. I'll jump in if there's anything else.
Yeah, hi. You can hear me, right? I mean, gross margins, we believe has to keep going up because, the level of investment that will be required as we get into, launching this new premium portfolio, the new categories, getting into multiple REs like e-com, the above the line is going to keep going up. So for a gross margin, getting it up would continue to be a focus. But again, balancing volume and pricing and, making sure our price, our promotional strategy is competitive. The other line support is competitive. So, we calibrate all this, make sure we balance all this. But we believe, for a business to be healthy the way it is and continue to build on the momentum, the gross margin piece will continue to have opportunities. And as you rightly pointed out, mix is a good piece of it. We launched charcoal this year, visible white, diabetes. We getting all these bundles which are premium price, premium margin. So part of it would be this. But partly also, remember, a good part of our portfolio lies in the 10 rupee pack, which is a lower margin than the rest of the portfolio. And as rural affluence improves, we've seen the 5 rupee because consumers are all shifted to the 10. So the 10 will move to 20, which are better margins. So bit of better SKU mix, better brand mix. We will continue to be able to deliver better gross margins going forward.
If I just add one more thought also, we've been running revenue growth management principles, and we've got a very robust 7-lever outlook that we put in place about 12 to 14 months ago, which allows us to make sure that we take different aspects of the business, like Jacob said, whether it's about mix, whether it's about competitiveness of our promotional grids and how we manage that investment strategy across REs and SKUs, whether it's about the innovation and more importantly, the incrementality of the innovation that we bring to the table. So revenue growth management is behaviorally one of the foundation stones we run the business by. And I think that outlook always balances us to make sure that we balance volume and pricing. 1, 2, we remain competitive. There is no way we will back off in terms of any competitiveness that we need to bring to place. While at the third point in time, we have that a little bit more of a future outlook to making sure that the health of the business and the funding, frankly, of the business is looked after as well.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Arnab Mitra from Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
Hi, Ram and Jacob, and thanks for the presentation. My first question was on frequency of brushing, which has been certainly one area where both it's not just about double brushing, it's also about everyday brushing, which is also not there in many parts of rural India. So a lot of the campaigns that you showcased, they do not seem to focus on that element. So is it something which you think is a slow burn which will happen on its own, or have you in the last 1 year put some incremental efforts on both these aspects of frequency of brushing?
Great question. I think we agree with you more on the opportunity that frequency of brushing offers. I mean, sadly, even the bulk of urban India still only brushes once a day. So forget rural, even urban. The opportunity in urban India is just absolutely tremendous. India sadly ranks amongst the lowest in terms of per capita brushing today. All I can tell you is watch the space coming to a theater very soon in terms of how we're looking at it on many levels, whether it's about awareness generation, whether it's about behavioral change, or whether it's about grassroots partnerships. You'll see a very powerful narrative come from us, which we are looking at it from a long-term point of view. As you well can imagine, behaviors don't change overnight. So watch the space is all I can say. It's very high on our agenda. The team's working diligently to get it right. Behavior is amongst the toughest things to change. Having said that, we believe we've got some very interesting models that allow for this to happen. And like I said, it's a combination of awareness, the right level of, and then getting it right at a grassroots level.
Second part question was on brushes, where you actually in the last 2 years put in a lot of efforts, a lot of innovation has happened. This used to be a very commoditized category, probably still is in the way it is sold in trade. Are you seeing some shift in how the consumer is seeing this category due to the efforts last few years? Some of the imported Chinese products not coming into India as much. Is there something which kind of tells you that the next 3-4 years could be somewhat of an inflection in the brushes premiumization?
So while I would say it this way, the category is amongst the most, you could argue, a little bit of what is defined as a delayable category. So unlike a tube of toothpaste, unlike a shampoo sachet or a bar soap, which finds over and you don't have a choice but to go and buy a new one, toothbrushes is a delayable category, as in unless literally your brushes break or your bristles fall off, and sadly the quality of Colgate is so good, neither of those two things are going to happen. So that brush is going to lie with you for your lifetime at least. So I think again, it goes back to part of our exercise on how do we trigger the behavior to change. And if I answered your other question, it's in the same context as we talk about the overall opportunity on per capita consumption. We look at it in the context of two things. One is the brushing or the adding a second brushing, adding one more brushing to your routine. And the second is triggering a change in your toothbrush. So both of those are specific focus areas. Having said that, Zigzag, by the way, is the most recognized brush in the category in the country today, interestingly enough. Was going to ask for Zigzag, right? So that's why we chose to do a lot of the innovation that I showcased today on that franchise, whether it was a relaunching of the core variant itself with antibacterial bristles or the addition to its lineup with turmeric, neem, and charcoal. The entire outlook was making sure that we took a franchise that has inherent consumer memory structures and making sure that we amplify reach and availability of the same. So to answer that question, I guess the first one, yes, absolutely, it's part of our overall purpose. And second is in the aspect of making sure that the big franchises are extendable, so you have consumers looking to come in more often.
Okay, thanks so much, Ram. All the best.
Thanks, Arnav. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shirish. Mr. Pradeshi, may be requested to... Yes, go ahead, please. We can hear you, sir. Please go ahead. Thank you.
We can't hear you.
Mr. Pradeshi, our team will get in touch with you and check. While we take the next question, we take the question from the line of Amish Agarwal from Prabhudas Lilladher. Please go ahead.
Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Hello?
Please go ahead. Yes, sir, you
Yeah.
are audible.
Yeah. So, thanks, Ram, for the detailed presentation. My question is regarding the growth rate, because we are predominantly an oral care player. If you look at, say, the period between 2010 to 15, Colgate's top line is growing in double digits. Within the last 5 years, the growth rates have been, say, low to mid single digits. Now, the new launches which the company has displayed, whether it is diabetics or some of the other ones, so there seems to be again more add-on on the in the oral care category. So, in this backdrop, what kind of growth acceleration are we looking at in the coming years? That is the question number one. And the second is, in the last, say, year or two, we have tried to go into non-oral care category. We had launched, for example, shampoos were there, and then body wash was there. So, how the performance is there, and what is the way forward for the same? Thank you.
Thanks, Anish. Thank you. So two things. I think first, let me step back and answer the first one. On 2010 to 2015, a large part of that growth was actually driven even earlier from 2008 all the way through to 15, was driven by a radical improvement in household penetration. So the country fundamentally upgraded, so to speak, from a point of view of how toothpaste penetration being barely in the early 60s, going all the way up to 90. And obviously, as category leaders, we drove that significantly. And as I answered Arnab on the earlier one, the second phase of growth will now shift towards per capita consumption, and fundamentally around the frequency of brushing opportunity. And like I said, you'll hear us come back to you with much more on the second option, which is public information, and everyone's well aware, is that in 15, 16, 17, we were also hurt by certain competitive entries, and that did slow down our progress. So if you know we know we got caught off guard on that. I think we came back quite strongly, and if you see our results, frankly, over the last couple of years, we feel quite confident in terms of the pacing at which they've come back. On your second question, I already answered our ambition, so to speak, with Palmolive. But more importantly, how is it doing? Actually, Palmolive continues to do extremely well. When you look at it, like I said, we've been choiceful in terms of the portfolios, in terms of the categories we've chosen to participate with, and the retail environments. So it is not going to be, we're choiceful, making sure it's not available in just about every kirana across the country. But we want to make sure that we have a model where the brand is built first. There is continuous and sustained demand that then allows us to amplify and accelerate our distribution reach. So in the retail environments, specifically e-commerce and modern trade, actually Palmolive is doing exceedingly well for us. So that bodes well in terms of our long-term outlook on it.
Yeah, so just a follow-up, given the high penetration, because oral care is one of the most penetrated categories, so what sort of category growth in toothpaste are you looking at for the coming few years? And secondly, have we gained any market share in the toothpaste segment in the coming year and a half?
The coming year, hopefully we will continue to gain shares over the coming years. I think that's the way I would phrase it. I didn't get the first question. Sorry, you broke up a bit.
So my question was that looking at the high rates of penetration of the oral care or toothpaste as a category, so what sort of the category growth rates are you looking at for the coming few years?
I wish I was a soothsayer, so I'm not. So the way I would answer the question is that I think two parts to it. Like I said, if I look at in the world, I think we would unfortunately rank in the bottom 3 or 4 on a worldwide basis, with our per capita consumption being somewhere in the 200 or 220 gram mark per person. Even if I compare emerging markets like Brazil, Brazil stands almost close to 700 grams of consumption. So obviously there's a huge delta opportunity on, as was rightly pointed out, in amplifying or adding that one more brushing ritual in entire oral health process today. Our outlook is, as category leaders, we believe it's our responsibility to be driving that. Now, where the number falls is a function of so many variables. So I think very difficult for me to give an outlook to say the number will fall. But I think the way we see it is it's our job to drive the category. So if you notice, almost anything and everything we've spoken about over the past 12 months or so has been about how can we grow the pie. And whether it's about the renovation of the core of the business to improve oral health, whether it's about the innovation across price points, or whether it's about per capita consumption and frankly driving an oral health agenda or elevating oral health in India, in our country altogether, I think that's the way we see it.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is the line, please go ahead. Mr. Roy, may we request you to accept the prompt on your screen and proceed for your question?
Handling the distribution. So in chemist channel, for example, now competitive intensity will be higher versus when GSK was selling it. And second, for diabetic toothpaste, which you launched, looks very good on paper. So now again, this will be sold more at the chemist channel. And how will you educate customer that this will work? Because he is not taking it. I understand that linkage between diabetes linkage, but it is too technical. And so how will you create this category, and how will you fight in the chemist channel, given
I didn't get your voice is really choppy, Abneesh. I didn't get it. Let me try to recap the question, and hopefully I've got it right. One is, how do we manage the competitiveness in the pharma or the chemist channel? It was the first question. And second, how do we make sure that the consumer has a understanding and therefore participation in the new launch of the diabetic toothpaste? Is my understanding correct of your questions?
Abneesh Roy, may we request you to please acknowledge the question?
Yeah, question.
Excuse me, this is the operator. Mr. Roy, your voice is breaking.
Yeah. Question is correct. Ram can go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Abneesh. Sorry, just your voice is breaking, so I just want to make sure I answer the right questions. So let me take both very valid questions, and obviously things that the team has. It's not unique on you. These are certainly things that came up as we were in the process of development and putting our go-to-markets together. So on the first question on pharma, I think India has changed substantially, and I think three things for me. Number one, we've traditionally been under-indexed in terms of the chemist channel. So by definition, solutions like these, that opportunity to accelerate our underperformance in that segment or that retail environment specifically. Number one. Second, in today's day and age, two things have happened, which is second and third, I guess, right? The second thing is, whether it's in the context of change that you see in Western India, or even if you see the third aspect, which is the radical growth of the entire e-pharma side of things. I think actually these give us phenomenal strength and advantages because we can participate intelligently, both whether it's a strategic partnership, whether it's a more targeted approach, and therefore we don't have to go into classic mass media solutions and look at wastage overall. We can be very specific. So I think the combination of the under-indexation or the historical under-indexation coupled with the growth of this channel itself both offline and online, actually makes us even more optimistic in terms of our outlook on how we would like to tackle it more than anything else. I think historically, our biggest, we have the right horses for courses, and did we have the right portfolio to play effectively in these in this retail environment? And I think with some of the recent launches that I spoke about, absolutely, we believe that we're fulfilling that gap quite intelligently. The second question, is the marketer's dilemma, right? How do you take any product category for that matter or any launch and simplify it down to how a consumer actually understands it and realizes what an essential ingredient it is in part of their lives. And I think if you noticed when I spoke about the model, I spoke to you about the fact that it is a very different go-to-market. It is genuinely about personalization at scale. And that personalization is going to start with education and awareness building. Diabetic, you would know, their ecosystems are unbelievably well managed, right? From the way they look at food labels to the way they control their diets, to the way they are monitoring insulin, they live very, very regimented lifestyles. And our biggest opportunity and challenge, I guess, is about helping that process say, look, while you're looking at all other aspects of your lifestyle, one missed element is your mouth. And coming from a brand like us, where we have the credibility to talk to you as a consumer about oral health, we believe education and awareness building is route number one. The second part of it is leveraging credible endorsers. What do I mean by that? So classically, we've always had brilliant partnerships, whether it's the IDA, the DCI, or the dental professional. In this case, we're not publishing papers with the Indian Diabetes Association. So we're moving it out of a classic realm of just toothpaste or oral care and taking a broader influencer outlook to how we're going about making sure that the consumer is made aware of the solution and why and how this would improve their lives. The third aspect, as I said, is the personalization scale. It is going to be a data-driven model. Again, the good news is, behaviorally, based on all the digitization the country has really seen, it allows us to actually target and build cohorts and lookalikes that we can then scale at pace. So actually, when you look at the three things, we think it's education and awareness, the credible, amplifying this with credible endorsers, and then making sure that we are talking to you at the right personalization at scale. That's broadly how we're looking at it, Amish. And that's how the entire plan is structured. So it's actually a very different go-to-market from anything else we would have ever done.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be able to take the next two questions. We take the question from the line of Richard Liu from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks.
Hi,
you hear me? Just want to check. Hi, Ram.
Hi, Richard. Yes, yes.
All well, Ram. Thank you. So, can I request, I know you spoke about gross margin and EBITDA margin a while back when Jacob was talking, but can I request you for your perspective, margin and 32% EBITDA margin in today's context, especially in the context of very weak absolute space. And then again, in the same light, if I can just ask a related question on the price hikes, you all took in February, March, without any input cost pressures. For type case, price hikes still work in the current context, where there are no cost push per se. So you can just help explain your perspective here. That'll be very useful. Thank you.
So let me start by saying our outlook, Richard, is about striking the right balance between volume and price growth. We're very clear about that. Jake also already spoke to you. Businesses still reside in the rupee 10 and the rupee 20 pack. So by no stretch of imagination are we losing the focus or the attention in what we believe will be continued growth on that front. And frankly, even if you look at our over the last 9 months, rural growth continues to outperform urban growth. So I think we feel quite good about the balance that we have, and I think we're going to continue to remain focused on that effort to make sure we strike the balance. One quarter maybe this way and one quarter maybe another way. I think that happens. That's just that's a function of so many other variables. So I short-term outlook to make sure we're striking that right balance. Number one. Second, from a gross margin and EBITDA. Let me talk EBITDA first. I think as we keep calibrating advertising investment, you see the EBITDA play up and down a little bit based on that. I think when the pandemic hit, we learned our lessons. Even if I go back, we learned lessons with demonetization. For example, when demon first hit, we actually went dark, and the lesson was it was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. So this time around, we chose not to. But what we did do was we went back and spoke to every one of our media partners and said, listen, while there were a lot of other brands pulling out, can we recalibrate how we structure our deals? So we were able to get significantly more value for the amounts of money we had, number one. Second, interestingly enough, as more people unfortunately got stuck at home, so we have to keep calibrating our awareness goals.
Please state your name and company after the tone, followed by the hash key. Thank you.
Right? I can't. It's 10 rupees and a 20 rupee pack. But what we've done is we've broadened our portfolio there. So in the past, if you just had a Colgate and a Cibaca, today you have Colgate, Cibaca, Max, Cas, Active Salt, and even Ved Shakti. So we give consumers broader choices. Mix helps us. So I think it's about calibrating based on RE, SKU, and geography. But sure. Again, like I said, volume remains a priority, Richard. It's not by no stretch of imagination. Is you can't operate in India if you don't have a volume priority, right?
Yeah. and some perspective on on this period-based price hikes that that you all have been following. Especially in a context where post GST we've not seen too many price hikes coming in from FMCG companies, especially except in cases where there have been a huge cost push. In that context, do you think this this strategy of taking price periodically that they have do you think they will still work in today's context?
I think it's about value. I think the conversation for me is always with the consumers about value propositions, right? Consumers are willing to pay as long as we provide value. And I think we remain unbelievably undeterred in that outlook in terms of making sure that the value we provide our consumers is always there. So as you talk about lack of pricing, we've been unbelievably judicious in terms of which SKU it's done on, which geography it's done on. So the granularity with which it's done is you should see us operate. I will tell you it is down to that level of SKU by geography sometimes, right? One. I would argue that with the advent of modern trade and e-com exploding at the pace at which it is, interestingly enough, if you take a look at a lot of other categories, you'll see a lot of premium brands that have actually grown. And just take a look. You go into any one of the e-com platforms and search for certain categories, and you'll see again a large number of high-priced brands actually growing significantly faster. Now they grow because they have a value proposition, and they genuinely deliver against that value proposition. One. Now the second aspect, as we take pricing like done on a retail environment and an SKU and a variant basis. We also make sure we give back. So if e-com or modern trade requires us to create special packs, to create banded solutions, to create value by giving free grams or reduced pricing on larger pack sizes, or whether it's free toothbrush, etc., we offer those things in. So we balance that pricing with the right promotional strategy that allows for us to not sacrifice the volume, get the right ASP, as we say internally, right? Again, keeping the consumer in mind. The last thing we want to do is outprice ourselves out of the market, right? We want to do it intelligently. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ram. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we take the last question from the line of Ashit Desai. Please go ahead. Ashit Desai, may be requested to accept the prompt on your screen and go ahead with your question.
Hi, Ashit.
Yeah, hi Ram. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a question on your Muskaan program, if you can share further details on it and also give some trends on GT growth and market shares.
Let me talk to you. Yeah, sure. So let me start with Muskaan. So there's always been questions associated with wholesale being a significant component of our overall business, and I think we've said it quite a few times. We see it as one of the strengths and advantages we have, specifically when you look to translate that into depth of distribution reach, and ultimately distribution that translates itself into household penetration reach. I think that was it. So what we were trying to do, or what we're trying to still do with Muskaan, it's not done. We've begun the initiative for about 12 months now. The idea is that if we think about it, how do we create a loyalty kind of a program with partners that have been with us? And often the middlemen, or even to many extents the small stores in our, simply put, is an effort for us to make sure that we maintain the relationship by strengthening a loyalty aspect to our brands. Why do we do this?
Excuse me, this is the operator. So your voice is breaking.
Sorry. Okay. I was saying Retailers typically hold very few SKUs, right? In any category, it's not limited to just toothpaste or toothbrushes or stuff like that. It's in any category. So we want to make sure that our have a stronger share of assortment with them, and that comes when you look at their best interest in mind. What we're also conscious about is we don't want it to end up becoming a price battle. So by creating more programs like Muskan, it allows you to build relationship and offer value of different sorts and kinds to the wholesale partners. The third aspect is in today's day and age with digital the way it is, the digitization angle allows for the management of these programs at scale. In the past, we would have been able to do this with perhaps 500 stores, 1,000 stores. Today, thanks to a mobile phone, we can talk about scales of 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 without a problem. So I think that's the broader outlook to Muskan. On GT, we are, the good news is that overall resurgence of that channel. That's great news for us. We continue to be very, very pleasantly surprised with how GT has come back. It varies obviously by different parts of the country, so in certain parts of the country, they're coming back. Now, they're involved. And they expect us to participate in that evolution with them. So let me give you anecdotally Bombay City, right? So as some large customers had challenges in Bombay, we're seeing a shift of SKU purchase behavior from the GT stores surrounding those stores that were challenged. So we proactively reached out to them and said, look, the consumer profile in this area tends to buy SKUs like this. We can work with you to build your assortment on the same. And funny enough, they came back with open arms. So we're seeing a resurgence of GT, so to speak. Now, like I said, this varies across pockets. In the South, the GT is coming back more in the context of what we would call a standalone modern trade. So it's an upgraded GT where a consumer has an opportunity to still interact with the pack, as in you can touch and feel solutions across the shelf versus on market shares, they remain extremely healthy. We're still very much in the 50 plus in the 50 plus club without a problem. And you saw some of the numbers I showcased where we were under indexed traditionally in the past, whether it was modern trade or even e-com, where we were classically under indexed. We're now actually not just grown market share, but we've actually over indexed ourselves above the all India averages. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks for that. And just a follow-up question on market shares. Everyone seems to be showing a gain in market share. So I understand there could be differences in Nielsen and Kantar reporting. But in your internal assessment, are you happy with the recovery in market share that Colgate has seen? And can we see a new and the innovation that you're doing?
Sorry, can we see a?
Can we see a renewed aggression in the new launches and innovation that you're doing?
So I think we've scaled. So like I said, our outlook to innovation is that of sustained and it has to be at sustained levels and it must offer incrementality to us in all forms, whether it's in the form of market share or household penetration or volume or even pricing for that matter. I think from our outlook to innovation remains more strategic. It's not just that we're not going to do things just because a competitor has done something. Our focus is unwaveringly on the consumer. From a market share point of view, I think we feel good. I mean, you've seen some of the numbers, and frankly, we also get a lot of scan data, which is direct. It's not extrapolated on any sorts. When those trends, we continue our category partnerships and our category captaincy approach with a lot of our partners, and they actually look to us to make sure that we have the right narrative to building the broader category. So in a nutshell, I would say yes. I think we're heading in the right direction. Are we? I think at 100 market, maybe 105 market share, I'll be really happy. So there's always room for improvement, and at Colgate we often say success is never final. So we continue that journey non-stop.
Okay, thanks for that. One last suggestion is if you can share the volume growth data also in your quarterly releases.
Up here. Excuse me, this is the operator. Mr. Raghavan, we can't hear you.
I said all I said was good suggestion. I think that was the last question, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Perfect. Listen, hey, thank you once again, everybody. Listen, hopefully we were able to add some excitement to everybody and lots more smiles to everyone before they went off into a holiday season. Our heartfelt thanks to every one of you for all your continued support, both as stakeholders as well as consumers. Keep smiling, continue to be champions of optimism. Wish you and your families a phenomenal holiday season, a safe, healthy, and prosperous holiday season ahead. Thank you so much, everyone.